Ask Reddit. People who were damn near murdered. How did it happen? And how did you get out of it? Got shot in the abdomen during a house invasion. Was bleeding out, and the only thing that kept me alive was focusing on my breath and my buddy smacking me across the face and telling me nobody dies from a shot to the stomach. Obviously lying to me, but it helped keep me focused. And I guess the doctors too when I made it to the hospital. Nobody dies from a shot to the stomach. What a good buddy in distressing times. Still lets you know how embarrassing it would be to be the first to die from a stomach shot. Lol, I'm glad you survived though. Did yo have any long-term side effects? He's a great guy, and I owe him more than I could say. Thank you. I do still carry the bullet in me. It hurts during the cold days, and I have a new hatred for fireworks. Worked as a bouncer, and had a few drunkards who got violent. I got very good at dodging thrown bottles. One day I get the usual call to come and give someone the walk of shame. Well, I grab his shoulder and start walking him out, and before I realize something's happened, he stabbed me in the thigh and was about to go for my throat before he got glassed by a patron. A few stitches and a funny walk for a few weeks and I was fine, but that guy always got free drinks. His only problem with glassing the dude was, well, now I've got no beer. That's a bit sad. Not sure if I was nearly murdered, but someone threatened me with a knife, probably trying to rob me. However, at that point, I was on the phone with my dad cause my mom had an accident and completely ignored the guy. I think he just let me go cause he realized how stressed I was. Ex-wife tried to hit me with a car 3 times. I would be walking on the street and she will come roaring out of parking lots. It was evident she would pull in the parking spaces and stay hidden for a length of time before coming at me. Hit me twice. First time I went to hospital and second time was minor. My ex-boyfriend was abusive the entire time we were together, but it culminated in him trying to strangle me with an electric cord. Our elderly neighbor randomly knocked on our door because she needed help shoveling her driveway snow, right as I was starting to lose consciousness. He was a police officer, so he had an appearance to keep up and immediately switched his mask back to answer and go help her. I found out later when my ex left for his overnight shift that she had long suspected something bad was happening because she would see me with bruises and gotten a bad feeling out of nowhere that night, and that is why she came over to ask for help. She called her son to take me to the hospital, and that was when I was finally able to leave him. I will always consider her my guardian angel. Side note for anyone reading this, if a partner ever makes you feel unsafe, leave. Make a safety plan and GTFO. They will always do it again, and it will always get worse. The progression is rarely non-linear either. They can go from being a -2 partner to a +4 partner to a -5 partner to a +5 partner, back and forth. But it always gets worse in the grand scheme, and the good is never ever worth dying over. I was coming home from my restaurant job at like 2 a.m. I stopped at a sketchy Walgreens to grab some snacks. I was getting into my car when a dude ran up behind me yelling, my friend, please, you must help me." So startled, I turned and saw a large man in front of me. He had thick Haitian accent. He started frantically explaining that he had just arrived from Haiti and desperately needed a ride to his friend's house to reunite with his family. FYI, the giant earthquake in Haiti had just happened. Normally, I try and help everyone I can, but this dude was giving me weird vibes, like he was on a lot of drugs. I politely declined and he got aggressive, and I ended up just hopping into my car driving quickly away. The next morning, I saw on the news he had convinced 2 young girls to give him a ride. He pulled out a knife and forced them to drive about 100 miles away. He then made them park on a side road somewhere and started stabbing them. One died and the other ran away and got help. He got shot by the police trying to get away. I was 21. It was a murder/suicide attempt. He drove me into a river at 2 a.m. on a below-freezing night, about 30 miles from town. I was asleep in the passenger seat and woke up when the water hit my legs. The doors wouldn't open due to the pressure, but luckily the windows were down. We swam out. I dragged him to shore. He laid on the riverbank and cried, while incoherently apologizing. I led us through the woods for hours until we found a farmhouse. I was mostly fine, but had hypothermia and a torn ACL. I told him to kill himself ASAP and leave me out of it. Then I never spoke to him again. We were not together, nor had we ever been. We were just friends and former roommates. I'll never understand why he wanted to take me with him. A father killed his wife, then came to the school looking to kill his son. The staff convinced him his son was not there after he threatened to kill everyone in my class. He was caught in Indiana on his way to kill his parents. He was schizophrenic, could not afford his medicine anymore, and had an episode where he thought the world was ending, so he was going to kill his family so they would not suffer. Him holding a knife at someone's grandmother's throat while yelling, "I'll kill them all, they are already dead," was extremely terrifying to a class of 7-year-olds. I got stabbed in the chest a few years ago during a fight with some bike thieves. Didn't notice at the time and escaped the fight and rode the bike away. Then I checked myself and discovered lots of blood. Went to nearby shop and sat down inside, put my finger in the hole and called the ambulance. I had a punctured lung and blood in the pleural cavity, but I was otherwise okay. The lad that did it went to prison. When I was 23, I was robbed at gunpoint by a guy who was about my age, maybe a bit younger. I disassociated immediately after the encounter, so my memories of the event are sort of in the third person and weird. But I remember he asked me if I had any valuables that he hadn't already taken while he was pointing the gun in my face. I told him he could check my pockets. He briefly got this look of shame on his face and let me go. I guess pointing a gun is impersonal, but reaching into a woman's front and but pockets felt wrongly intimate and crossed a boundary for him. FWIW, the only valuables he got were $14 in USD, an almost 3-year-old Android phone, and a third-generation Kindle. I don't understand why people do strong armed robbery anymore. Such a huge consequence if caught for little return. And if it goes south, we're talking 25 to life. Just do the Hawk Tuah thing and rob people over the internet, and no judge will touch the case. Was 16, my friends and I were out in the woods with a .22 rifle and some cans and zombie targets. I finished my low magazine and handed the rifle to a buddy. Went out to set up the cans and targets back up, and a shot whizzed past my left ear within 2 inches. Walked up to him, grabbed rifle, and punched him straight in the face. He was ostracized from the group not long after that. When I was an early teenager, I went to a friend's house whose older sister was having a party. It had alcohol, but very limited. Her parents were home, and we mostly played video games and cards. But more people than expected showed up, including some people who had already graduated. This one guy was a former high school jock loser who started in on making fun of me / hitting on me. The parents asked him to leave and he did, making a bit of a fuss but eventually walking out. I was all upset and crying and wanted to go home, but home was a mile-ish walk through some woods and dark roads, so her parents told me they would drive me home in a bit when the party was over. I was still upset and I was very dumb, so after a bit, I snuck out and walked home. A few hundred yards from my house, someone hit me with something. I was told it was a baseball bat, and stabbed me in the stomach several times. I do not remember any of this, nor do I remember someone finding me bleeding in a ditch and taking me to a hospital. If I had been there for much more time, I probably would have bled out and died in a ditch. What's the closest you've been to dying? Feel free to share in the comments below. Please consider subscribing and liking for more daily videos.